So we've looked into which language has the most words, which is pretty tricky to define. But how about which language has the most sounds, the most different speech sounds that can be used to make different words? These are called phonemes. Any time you have a language sound that is able to distinguish different words, as in you change the sound, you get a different word, those are called phonemes. They are the basic units. We can very loosely say that they're like the letters of the language, the letters that the language cares about, the sounds that make different words. And of course, in addition to these phonemes, there's also a large number of variations of all little details of how sounds can change, and those are typically called phones. You might also hear the term allophones. And these are kind of like little details, little versions of the same sound. But what I really want to look at is the number of phonemes, because that is really the number of the building blocks of sound that are used to make up different words. And I want to look into which language has the most of them to see what is the range that we have in human languages. So there's a good website to look into all this information. It's a collection of many different databases, which are themselves the collection of a lot of research over many years by different linguists. This is called Foible. And we can look at, we can see what languages we have here. And here we have pretty impressive map of the world in which each of about 2,000 languages has been assigned a dot. So of course it is a little bit silly to think of a language as existing in a dot, but this is just the way that it can be assigned to this database. You see here like the list of languages. It's assigned to a language family, and that also gives the color. And then it's assigned geographic coordinates. So you can actually look here, like you zoom in, look, oh, there's English. English is this little dot in England. And here you see there's Mandarin Chinese as a little dot around Beijing. So, it's clearly very simplified as far as the location goes, but they basically picked a spot that's associated with each language. This also gives you a nice picture of where a lot of the linguistic diversity is. You see here over West and Central and East Africa. You see big clusters here in South and Southeast Asia, and all the way down into Papua New Guinea, the highlight of linguistic diversity, and Australia, as well as here in around. You can see how it's clustered around the Pacific coast and in a big chunk of South America. So here are the languages that have been included in this database. And now we get to the actual inventory list. So here's the database. Now there's 3,000 entries for 2,000 languages, because you can see in some cases you have more than one count. And this is where things can get tricky. We talked about the difference between the phonemes, the sounds that actually make a difference to make different words. And then there's the phones or allophones that are extra details. They are also different sounds, but they are considered kind of like, extra, just an extra level of detail because they don't actually distinguish different words. So if you're going in and studying one of these languages, there can be a lot of gray areas and uncertainties about how to actually make this official count. So you can see here for the Abipon language, which I have never heard of. I guess it's from South America, because you can see it's from this count here is from the South American Phonological Inventory Database. And they counted 23 segments. And whereas here from the UPSID, which is one of the most famous of the sound counting studies, the UCLA Phonological Segment Inventory Database, that count only ended up with 20. So here, apparently, like here it was considered to have 10 different vowels, but here they only consider them to be 5 different vowels, although they found an extra 2 consonants. So this could be an example, like maybe it could be an example of long and short vowels. So maybe they noticed that, there's 5 vowels that can be either long or short. So you count that as 10, 5 long vowels, 5 short vowels. But maybe in this database they thought, well, actually, the long and short, it's kind of an automatic thing that they're long in certain cases, short in certain cases, but that's not actually used. That distinction is not actually used to create different words, so we wouldn't count them. So just like with a lot of things when it comes to trying to quantify languages and come up with clear numbers for things, there's certainly a lot of room for disagreement here, and so this is really, all of this stuff has to be taken with a grain of salt, and really, just imagine that it's kind of a guess, and that's how a lot of things are in science. That it is kind of guessing, and you make better and better guesses, but it's certainly not absolute. So here's the list, which is initially just in alphabetical order. And now what I want to see is, let's get to our question. What is the language with the most number of sounds? Now, for some reason, I don't know why, but they do not have the option to sort by the number of segments. Again, this term segment is what we're looking for. This segment is a way of saying like a letter, a phonetic letter, or a phoneme in this case. And you can't actually search by them, so you can't sort by that number. It's divided into these 3 columns of vowels, consonants, and tones. So, of course, we have the 2 major types of speech sounds: vowels made with the open mouth, and consonants made by closing the mouth somehow. And then we have tones, which would be a variation on the vowels, where you can, say high tone or low tone, and other kinds of different pitch levels and contours to create different phonemes using even the same vowel. Like you could have, in a tone language, you could have ah and ah. That could be 2 different phonemes. You could make 2 completely different words based on simply changing the pitch. So these are kind of like your, some of your dimensions that are possible here. All right, then we have the background of where the information came from, etc. Okay, so let's take a look, just for fun. Let's take a look by the vowels. So I'm going to sort descending by the vowels. Oh, it's gone the other way. Go here. There we go. So the language which is considered to have the most vowels is a couple of options here. Here we have Tavung and we have Elfdalian. And then we have a couple 49, even Danish. Well, I'm surprised that Danish and Scottish Gaelic are considered to have this many vowels. So this is an enormous number of vowels. I mean, many languages in the world are completely happy with 3 or 5 and maybe sometimes 7 vowels. That's very common. So to have 50 vowels is really quite an enormous thing. But we did want to look at what is the most overall. So let's take a look at the consonants. And now we get to something that, because there tend to be more consonants than vowels in most languages, possibly all, simply because it's more possible to make, there's more variety possible with consonants. All the different places in your mouth you can close and the different types of closures you can make tends to make there's just more variety possible than with the vowels. Here, this number of consonants, this seems to get us to our number that we're looking for. This total number of segments, I don't think there's anything below here. So here we're ranking by consonants, and this is going to catch the highest ones. There's nothing. You see, going further, everything is well below 100. These are our contenders for the the top languages in the world in terms of number of sounds. And there is one that is famous, standing out, and that is this language, whose name itself is quite difficult to pronounce. And even the name itself of the language is kind of showing off some of the range of sounds that this language has, which you can see it's starting with a click sound, and then the X, which may be a ch, something, or possibly, although depends on the particular writing system used here. And then you have this o, on. Here you have a nasal on, so it's like o, on. Okay, so a lot going on even in simply the name of this language. So that's the one we'll take a look at. But a few honorable mentions. You can see the Sami, one of the Sami languages, language I've spoken of far northern Scandinavia, also has a very large number of sounds. You can see maybe only about half the vowels of this language and no tones, but a very large number of consonants. Here we have even a Khams Tibetan. So we have a variety of Tibetan, which also has an enormous number of consonants and vowels. And here we have Tigon Mbembe. And here we have, well, actually these languages, Tigon Mbembe is actually, you could say a slightly more modest number by comparison with this top end of the world here, but it does have 5 tones, which is a large number of tones. And so that introduces more variety. And then we have these other languages, which looks kind of suspiciously similar to this one. You have the click followed by this X here and the U. So these languages, I believe these have to be quite related to our winner up here. And then you can see after this, things drop off pretty quickly, and we're already below 100 sounds. Although to be clear, this entire next page is still an enormous number of sounds. I mean, you can see like Moroccan Arabic, it kind of stands out. It's only 4 vowels, but an enormous number of consonants. Where you see here we have Hindi. Hindi is also possibly this is like the most major language to appear this high, which has a very large number of consonants and vowels, and on down from there. But now I want to look at Ista, because this is our clear front runner. Not even that close. The second place is another language that appears to be quite similar, at least from the name. So let's now take a look at Ista. Okay, so we can see this is a language of southwestern Africa. And so this is simply the entry for the language, and the link is to the inventory. So for some languages, there's more than one inventory. Here we just have one. So this is the inventory, and there it is. They don't even fit on one page, 100 out of 161. So here we have the different classes, so we can sort by consonants and vowels. And here's the phonetic description using the International Phonetic Alphabet to try to describe what these sounds are. And this mentions whether they are marginal, because some of these you can see we talked about the gray area, whether they are really considered to count. Are they for sure distinctive phonemes, or are they maybe not sure? So that would be marginal if they're not sure. But these are all very clearly established as phonemes. Here we can see allophones. These are different versions that you would get of the same segment. So here you can see, a lot of these only have one allophone. So there's really only one way to say them. Okay, so whereas you see down here we can get this very unusual sound, which is a combination of a G, a click, and a K with an aspiration, or a H, kind of an H sound. This can either appear with the K, or with the Q, which would be Q would be with the tongue further back. So there can be these two possible ways to say it. And there's more of these going down. Now here you can see the representation. Like there's some numbers that there's some of these that are going to be much more common around the world. So this is a list of from the most common to the least common sounds around the world. Now you can start with the letter M. This is I believe this is the most common sound in the world. And you see 96% of languages have an M. And of course I, K. So these are all like your big popular sounds. But as you go down the list, start to get into sounds that, these are sounds that less than 1% of the languages have. Until when you get right down, look, this entire bottom of the list is only represented in this language. Like this is like the only language in the world as far as, that has been, as far as all this large number of languages recorded in the database. It's not every language in the world, so there could be some exceptions and surprises, but it is a good representation of a very large number of the world's languages. And this is the only language that has a bunch of these strange sounds. Like, wow, I've never seen this one. It's a vowel with the vowel A with a little capital E next to it. I've never seen that marker. And so these are getting into extremely exotic sounds. Like, and there's a whole range of them. So it really is quite remarkable how this language has just simply a really prodigious collection of language sounds, and that like it almost seems like they got carried away and just like they can just make so many different sounds, whereas most other languages they stop at some point. But this language thought, well, we can go further, and why not? Why not have more sounds? So let's take a look and get more information about this language. Yeah, so here you can see I was searching for the ko. Okay, well that's nice. Here we see this. The way this is written looks completely unpronounceable, but here you can see the IPA description for it, or how to pronounce it, is simply ko. So there's something but the word ko. Like it's very simple to pronounce, despite looking quite impossible to pronounce here. Well, that's the English pronunciation. So the English pronunciation is to call it ko. Now, the pronunciation in the ko language is this, which is a click followed by a throat sound, a throat fricative here, combined together, which I'm not quite sure how to. It's like I'm really struggling with this. Any co-listeners here can have a laugh. So you have okay, followed by a on vowel, which is like the o vowel but nasalized. A little squiggle means it's nasal, so it's like with it's a long vowel, and it is a medium-high tone. So wow, you really got to work just to even say the name of the language. You have wow, that's pretty bad. I really need work on that. Yeah, maybe this spelling is actually kind of nice. Like this I kind of like this spelling. It kind of like captures the sound a little bit better. And you can see it has many different names, like and different ways that it is pronounced. And yes, you can see this is most famous for having perhaps the largest number of phonemes in the world. And here we can see that, one of the things that makes it so full of sounds is that it has so many clicks. So click consonants are really a special class of consonant that only appear in certain parts of the world. Like you can see, like the click languages are mostly around here in Southwest Africa. So most of these features, most types of sounds, most language features they kind of appear around the world. Like there could be certain clusters, but you really can see a distribution around the world. But clicks are really a special, unique type of language sound that only occurs, at least for the most part, only occurs in Southwest Africa. So these languages are where clicks stand out. And what's special here with this language is that it not only has a lot of different clicks, but the clicks themselves are very common. So that actually, 80% of all their basic words will start with a click. So it's like and you have all these different types of click that you have starting most of your words. So there's really a very large amount of clicking going on, and it really is quite unique. Here we can see, so you can see the languages distributed around Southern Africa here. You see a lot of these names start with these exclamation marks or these different symbols to represent different clicks. Now you can see there's a whole discussion of the different names for them. The ama, ani. Yeah, so I really got to struggle with it. This is the bilabial click. It's a click made with your lip, which is like, whereas this is a click made with the front of your tongue. And there's, of course, many others. All right, but this is what I came here for, is the table. Okay, so you can get this table for most languages. You can look them up on Wikipedia, and you can get a nice table of the consonants and vowels of that language. Now for this one, it's not only a giant table, but it's two tables, because, or even for the consonants, because here you have your non-click consonants. This is for one dialect of this language. So even of your non-clicks, you still have an enormous inventory, much larger than most in the world, just even without adding the clicks. So you have your typical plosive sounds, like you have b, d, and g. So these would be the typical three types of plosive sounds that we'd also have like in English. We have p, t, k, b, d, g. So these three columns, although here they make it, it's made dental, it's made with the teeth. We would make it alveolar, but that's just a little detail. But here they have this extra layer here where they distinguish b, d, z, g. And they even go back further to the back of the tongue to these uvular sounds, which is like g. So that's made by really going further back. Of course, like a g or a k, G or K, that's already kind of made with the back of your tongue. But if you go even further to the uvula, the very back of your tongue, then you can get these uvular sounds. So it's like g or k. And we also have a distinction here of regular voiced versus the voiceless. So you have da, da, and then the voiceless aspirated, which has a little bit of a breath after it. So you have da, da, and ta as three different sounds. Z, z, and ta. G, k, k. G, k, k. And all of those being distinguished from each other. And here we have ones that this one, pre-voice. This is, I'm not quite sure how I can pronounce these ones, but it's something like the voiced aspirate sounds you hear in many Indian languages, like you have dha, dha, gha. So that even creates even larger distinction. So even just looking at the stops, the plosives here, this is a bigger inventory than many in the world. You have this, realize, pha, tha, tha. This one has kind of like a bit of like a throat. This is like the friction, a uvular fricative, a ha. And so you have this kind of friction in the back of your tongue combined with the p, t, or ts. So another version, and same with here. So you have like dha, dha. And then you have a whole series here. These are called adjectives. So these are made by when you make the close. So for all these plosive sounds, like you make a closure in your mouth, but then for the ejective sounds, you actually move your vocal cords up in order to kind of like explode it out with even more force. And I cannot pronounce these well at all, but it was something like, it'd be something like t, 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 Now you see these ones that are in brackets are probably they're considered probably not actually distinctive phonemes. So they're ones that, they might not make it into the list, or, linguists can argue about that, whether they really count as separate letters or whether they're really just different versions of other sounds on this chart. So I'll really kind of ignore the ones in brackets. And you can look at these, massive cluster ejectives. Never heard of that before. You really have like a compound, or really like an enormous compound sound. So it's like it's got a ts with an ejective, it's got a k, and it's got a h, also ejective. So it's like ts. You're really working at your tongue here, because this ts is made with the front of the tongue, the k with the back, and then a h with the very far back with the uvula. So you're getting really full tongue workout with this language, and pre-voice too. So the enormous variety. Like even from all this one place here, z, t, t, d, d, wow. Okay, that was pretty bad. That was my attempt to pronounce the full series of 9 different alveolar plosives in this language, which is absolutely monstrosity. Okay, so those are your plosives. Now, if you look at the fricatives, well, here we see a very modest inventory. So I guess even this language, I guess they have enough. They have enough going on with the plosives, and they simply have a very modest collection. In fact, far fewer fricatives than English has. You simply like a s and a h. Okay, so very, and possibly the f and the h. So very, very simple. Nothing much going on there. And then you have the m. Okay, so your nasals, m, n, ny, ng. Best glottalized one, which kind of has like, almost like you're swallowing it as you say it, to like m, n. So kind of like a modified version. So, pretty modest by the standards of this language. And they really have almost no sonorants. Like these are all plosives and fricatives. They don't have a lot of things like L's and R's and W's, and actually it's really quite limited. They have this v, which is kind of, this is a bilabial fricative, kind of like a v, kind of a little bit like a V, but it's made with both lips rather than lip and tooth. You have a regular L, another popular sound, and this is the sound y, like we would normally write with the letter Y. So a very common sound. And no W in this language, which is surprising. I guess that this v kind of acts like a W. A little bit similar to like, w or v. So very simple inventory once you get past this enormous collection here. But now that is only the non-click consonants, because now we can go into the click consonants. Wow. Okay, so here we can see these are divided in, I don't think I should even try to pronounce these, but here you can get clicks from different you have different combinations of clicks. See the clicks here we have, so bilabial clicks are made with the kind of like with the lips, almost like a kissing gesture. So you have, and that's the symbol here. So you have like, so you're almost like you're combining the click with the K. Here you're combining the click with the G, so you have this whole series of different types of clicks made with the lips. Then a whole series of different types of clicks made with the tongue on the teeth. Then lateral means the side of the tongue. So these are made, this double bar here is a lateral click, like it's made with the side of your tongue, kind of like that gesture, that kind of sound is used like when like commanding horses or whatever. Like and then so this sound is the lateral click made with the side of the tongue, and you have a whole series of different versions of that. Then here what they're calling these sharp clicks, well, here's another kind of like This is the click, this exclamation point here is your most popular click in the world, which is the click made with the front of the tongue. That sound here combined with a K, here it's like a voiced one, like here, like you're saying like, you hold the click, you make a G sound while holding the click. It's like G, G. So you kind of make the click and the G together, right? Whereas here, like you also like make the Q, this would be the uvula, so the back of your tongue, like ah, ah. So you're kind of like making this sound with the back of your tongue while also making a click. So really, they're making a lot of combos here, where these you have, this series of 5 different types of click, and then each of them is also combining with different sounds. This is the best attempt to write them using the phonetic alphabet, but you can see that there's many attempts to try to like write these in some kind of way. You can see there's a lot of different ways to try to figure it out. You just have to mash a whole bunch of letters and symbols together to try to make these, try to express these. All right, so that goes out. It keeps going on. So based on these 5 series, so there's really 5 series of clicks made with the lips, tongue on tooth, side of the tongue, front of the tongue, and this is kind of like the top of the tongue, palate, top of the mouth. So with those 5 series of clicks, you then have them combining with all these different sounds, all these different combinations. And this is where it really gets to, it's really a mind-boggling collection of clicks in this language. And finally, we have to get, well, actually here they're going to west. Okay, well, we looked at the east co-dialect, and now here's west. They have a few, let's see, they have maybe not quite as many of the plosives, but they have a few more of the fricatives, and they actually have a W and even an R maybe. Okay, but all pretty similar. But hey, where's the vowels? I wanted vowels. Well, 31 vowels. Only 5 vowels? Well, yeah, I think I was expecting to have a lot more vowels. Because here we have, where did we have our list of, if we go back to the source here, this list had was suggesting that there are 28 different vowels for this language. But here, okay, so here we're not going to get a nice chart here, but we can see 5 vowel qualities. So there's simply A, E, I, O, U. Okay, so those are your most popular basic vowels around the world. And those are the 5 main types of vowel. So here, though, you have different versions of them. So they have different types. So here you have the plain one. So there's going to be these 5 as plain. And there's kind of a murmured. So this is kind of like a breathy voice. Yeah, this is like, it's like ah, eh, eh. Little bit of like a breathy voice as you say them. So that would make another set of those 5 vowels. And then there's the glottalized vowel, where you kind of like swallow, you kind of like close your vocal cords. You say it's like ah, 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 ah. As I'm really not doing a great job saying it, but yes. Then we also have these pharyngealized, which is made with your kind of like squeezing your throat. The pharynx is the throat. So you're kind of like ah, eh, e. And strident sphincter. This is, well, the word strident means so really there's a constriction of the larynx. This is something that so it does also involves squeezing the throat closed, but you're also doing what you're calling an epiglottal trill. So this little flap that's there in your throat that covers the esophagus, to stop, or it covers your windpipe. So it's to stop food from falling into your lungs. That little flap is also going to trill. And wow, I actually never heard of that type of vowel before. And so that is going to even be a different type. Right. So you can see here you have the 5 vowels, and each of them can be either plain, murmured, glottalized, pharyngealized, or strident or sphincteric, and that makes at least 25 different vowels right there. So really quite a remarkable language, and I can say that I'm certainly glad that I am not learning this language. It sounds, although you certainly could be quite pleased with yourself if you could actually, have a conversation in this language. It would be, it would be quite an achievement. And I imagine there is a certain joy in breaking out all these sounds. But it just goes to show you the range that's possible in human language. This is a real outlier. And there's no language like it, but this is as extreme as it can get as far as stacking huge numbers of different sounds. You can see there's the advantage to having all these extra sounds is that you could really make a whole bunch of different words, and if a language only has a few sounds, you have to make your words longer because you don't have enough variation to make different words. With this language, you could probably have really short words, and because there's just so many different sounds that you don't need too many sounds to make the different words. It really it does really blow my mind that this is actually possible, and it is really one of the most remarkable things that we find in the world of languages. So hats off to the co-language.